Welcome to the Explainer. You know that feeling when you check your bank account and instead of immediately closing the app in sheer horror, you actually smile? Yeah, that's the dream, right? Well, most financial gurus out there are going to tell you that you need a cool $1 million to finally feel wealthy, or that securing a six-figure salary is the absolute magic number to stop sweating over grocery bills. But actually, scratch that. We're completely debunking that myth today. You absolutely do not need $1 million or a massive salary to transform your financial life and finally breathe easy. There's actually a much smaller, totally achievable milestone that changes literally everything.
So what is this actual magic wealth number? Take a quick second right now and guess what that milestone might be for you. Got it? Okay, think about the process of building wealth like trying to push a massive, heavy boulder up a ridiculously steep hill. Getting that boulder started is just absolutely grueling. You're sweating, you're straining, making barely any progress, and probably constantly questioning if the effort is even worth it in the first place. But there's a specific threshold where that boulder finally crests the top of the hill, and man, the entire game changes.
Okay, let's dive into this. That magic number, it's $20,000. This is the exact turning point where your financial boulder finally crests the hill. Everything before you save this 20 grand feels like you're relentlessly pushing uphill against gravity. But the exact moment you hit this specific threshold, gravity suddenly flips. It actually starts working in your favor. It's not just some nice round number. It's a profound psychological and mathematical turning point that literally separates people who live paycheck to paycheck from those who build serious long-term wealth.
Think about it like this. When you have zero savings, your brain is physically trapped in survival mode. You're operating entirely from a place of fear and scarcity, making these short-term, highly reactive decisions. Like taking a terrible job just because you literally cannot afford to miss rent. Your mental bandwidth is totally consumed by immediate threats. It's quite literally like trying to plan a nice, relaxing vacation while your house is actively on fire. But hitting that $20,000 mark, that shifts your brain into growth mode, finally allowing you to be proactive, opportunity-focused, and highly strategic.
And just to prove this isn't some fluffy self-help theory, let's look at this fascinating research from Vanguard. They found that having just $2,000 in emergency savings gives your overall financial well-being a 21% boost. Huge, right? But it gets even better. When you push that to 3 to 6 months of living expenses, which for most of us lands right around that $20,000 mark, you get an additional 13% boost. That establishes a massive psychological buffer. It gives your brain the essential breathing room to officially shift from just trying to preserve the little wealth you have to actively building it for the future.
Section 1. The Compound Math. Gravity working for you.
And this brilliantly illustrates how that psychological shift perfectly sets the stage for the mathematical magic. This is where your money actually starts doing the heavy lifting for you. Let's say you're saving $1,000 a month at an 8% return. Getting your first $20,000 takes about 19 months of pure grit, discipline, and delayed gratification. But your second 20 grand, that only takes 17 months. You did the exact same work, but you shaved 2 full months off the timeline. Why? Because your first $20,000 is now working alongside you. Fast forward to when you have a $400,000 portfolio, and generating your next $20,000 takes just 5 months. It's wild. The effort stays exactly the same, but the timeline shrinks drastically.
Now, to be clear, you don't need access to exclusive, top-secret hedge funds for this to work. It's simply basic scaling math. Look, if you invest $1,000 at a 10% return, you make $100. I mean, it's nice, but it's not exactly life-changing. But hit that $20,000 scale at an 8% return, and suddenly you're generating $1,600 a year in passive income. That's money that just shows up in your account without you lifting a single finger. It's the exact same strategy you started with, just at a scale that actually matters.
Which brings us to Section 2, the identity shift, rewiring your brain.
You see, hitting this milestone isn't just about the math in your bank account. It's about a profound identity shift. The intense, consistent discipline required to save that first $20,000 from zero fundamentally rewires how you think. Because of this shift, you completely stop obsessing over micro-decisions. When you're broke, you agonize over whether to buy the generic brand cereal or if you can really truly afford a $3 coffee. It just completely drains your mental energy. But once you have that solid 20 grand foundation, you realize those micro-decisions don't make or break your future. It's so liberating. You stop sweating the small stuff, and instead you focus all your mental energy on macro decisions, like housing, cars, and investments, the big choices that actually swing your net worth by tens of thousands of dollars.
Having this cash foundation also completely reframes how you view the world around you. What used to be a devastating financial emergency suddenly becomes, well, just a minor inconvenience. The car needs repairs. It's annoying, for sure, but it's no longer catastrophic.
And more importantly, you start seeing and actually acting on lucrative opportunities you previously had to ignore. If a killer deal on a rental property pops up, you can actually run the numbers, instead of just feeling envious while scrolling through Zillow at midnight. If a smart friend is starting a business, investing $5,000 becomes a real viable option. Bottom line, having cash means having options, and options create opportunities to grow your wealth.
Let's look at Section 3, the career superpower. Options create wealth. Now, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're essentially trapped in whatever job you have. Because you absolutely need that next check just to survive, you're kept in an incredibly weak negotiating position. But having savings completely transforms that dynamic, giving you what we like to call walking away money. Having $20,000 means you literally have the power to quit tomorrow and survive for months. You aren't negotiating from a place of desperation anymore, you're negotiating from a position of absolute strength. And the crazy part, you don't even need to actually use the money. Just knowing it's sitting right there changes everything about how you carry yourself.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a massively positive feedback loop at work. Step 1, because you have a safety net, you just stop fearing immediate consequences. Which leads to step 2, this allows you to comfortably and professionally push back on unreasonable requests from management. Step 3, you naturally start exhibiting this sort of quiet confidence and assertiveness. You become way more willing to take on challenging projects. And finally, step 4, because you're showing up differently, people definitely notice. You earn better assignments, more recognition, and ultimately higher pay. Ironically enough, simply having the money makes you substantially more successful in your actual career.
But we need to talk about Section 4, the ultimate pitfall, destroying the memento. Right at the climax of this journey, when people hit this $20,000 threshold, so many of them immediately sabotage their own foundation. And honestly, that usually looks like a shiny new $30,000 price tag. People hit their goal, decide they deserve a reward for their discipline, and go buy a new car. But here's the brutal truth. A new car is a rapidly depreciating asset. The exact second you drive it off the lot, boom, it loses 20% of its value. You aren't just spending money, you are actively destroying the wealth and the foundation you just sacrificed months or maybe even years to build. So, the crucial point is understanding what that new car is genuinely costing your future. $200,000. Yeah, you heard me. That $30,000 car isn't just 30 grand. If you had invested that money instead over 20 years of compound growth, it could have multiplied into over $200,000 in your investment account. When you truly understand this opportunity cost, driving a reliable used car doesn't feel like a sacrifice anymore. It feels like a highly strategic choice that is actively funding your future freedom. This leads us to the ultimate core lesson of this entire concept. You must filter every choice through the lens of opportunity cost to buy your future freedom. Once you cross that $20,000 threshold, you naturally start filtering your housing, your vacations, and your expensive hobbies through this highly strategic lens. Listen, it's not about being a miserable penny pincher who never has any fun. It's about being incredibly intentional with your money, ensuring that every single dollar aligns with what you genuinely want out of your life. So I want to end this explainer with a final critical question for you to really sit with and consider. Will you let your money slip away on things that don't actually matter, or will you intentionally design your future starting today? Reaching that $20,000 foundation is the vital difference between just reacting to life and taking absolute control to design it. Lay your foundation now, because your future self is heavily counting on the decisions you make today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.